Hello everyone and welcome to the Stamina Nightblade PVE DPS build for 1 Tamriel. Now the Nightblade, as far as stamina goes, is a little bit trickier to play. The complexion of the rotation is a little bit higher, and overall the class is not the easiest to play. So we're going to go in depth a little more in a second. So just go over my character and the character stats and sheet. We're sitting at 17.4k max health, 32,500 max stamina. Our weapon damage is almost at 2700, and we have almost 70% weapon critical. As you can see, for the race, I chose Khajiit. For Stamina Nightblades is definitely the highest DPS possible because the Nightblades are based on crit damage. They have a lot of crit passives, and overall Stamina DPS is best with Khajiit, especially in PvE. PvP wise, I would probably go with Redguard, but this is a PvE tutorial. We're using max health and stamina food, and using the Thief and the Shadow Mundus with Twiceborn to buff our crit damage. Again, this is a crit build. All PvE DPS builds are crit, and if they're not, they're doing something wrong. Let's go over the gear. So for the gear, we're wearing 5-piece Twiceborn Star on the body, all medium divines of course. Another acceptable set that a lot of people are talking about is Leviathan. The only problem with Leviathan is, and you can farm it in Crypt of Hearts, even on normal mode. The only problem is that it has no health bonus. And since we're wearing all medium, we don't have the Undaunted passive, which with Leviathan would put our health at 16k. So you will fall over. So I recommend sticking with Twiceborn Star unless you really know the trial well and you can survive really well. For our 2-piece, we're using the Krogs mask and shoulders. This set is absolutely OP. I don't recommend using any other set, especially in trials. Another good set for Stamina Nightblades, which can be okay, is Valadreth of course, and Stormfist is pretty strong as well, but Krogs is definitely best in slot, especially for trials. For the jewelry, we're wearing 3-piece Vicious Ophidian, all weapon damage enchanted. You can also go with Alkash, it's the same thing. If you don't have either of those, just wear agility, but again, I do recommend using Vicious Ophidian or Alkash. The Minor Slayer passive that you get from the 3-piece bonus is really strong, especially on stamina classes, so make sure you have that. For the weapons, we have 1 sharpened Maelstrom axe and 1 sharpened Maelstrom dagger. On the back bar, we're using a sharpened Maelstrom bow. All the weapons are sharpened. Stamina does need penetration, so we definitely need sharpened weapons for that. Now, a lot of people ask me, why not use something else? Why, if we don't have Maelstrom weapons, what should we do? What should we use? Here's the brutal, honest answer. If you don't have Maelstrom weapons, Stamina DPS is not very good. The only reason why Stamina DPS does a lot of damage is because of the Maelstrom weapons. Your Flurry grants 2003 additional weapon damage on the next single target dot within 4 seconds. And because you're wearing 2 Maelstrom weapons, it's 100% empowered chance. So all of our dots, Rending Slash, Trap Beast, Poison Injection, your ultis, which is either Rend or Dawnbreaker, those are all empowered by 2000 additional weapon damage. If you get rid of that, the damage is definitely a lot lower. So if you don't have Maelstrom weapons, go farm them in Maelstrom on a Stamina Nightblade. Just wear Hundings and Vicious Ophidian and Krogs, or Hundings, Vicious Ophidian and Valadreth. They all work really well. It's very easy to farm, especially on a Stamina Nightblade. Let's go over the skills. So the first skill on my front bar is Killer's Blade. This is our execute. We're going to use this at 20% or lower. It does 4100 disease damage. Our second skill is Steel Tornado. Now this skill I do swap out in boss fights for Deadly Cloak and hard mode fights for Deadly Cloak for sure, mainly because on the bottom, as you can read, Razors also shield you from shrapnel, reducing the damage you take from an area of effect attacks by 20%. There's a lot of AoE on hard mode VMAL or hard mode AA, so you definitely want to keep this up 100% of the time. But in trash fights, just spam Steel Tornado. Trash fights, very, very easy. AoE, put down your hail, trap, and spam this skill. Okay, next skill. Relentless Focus. Now, this is one of the main skills and one of the only skills that gives you minor berserk, as well as minor endurance, which increases your stamina recovery by 10%. So this skill definitely has to be kept up. Now, of course, our healers do provide combat prayer, which also gives you minor berserk, but Nightblades have this unique ability of keeping up their own, so we do keep this up. And also, after you weave 4 light or heavy attacks, you can proc a spectral bow, which does a lot of disease damage, and I'll show you my rotation in a second. So definitely keep this up 100% of the time. It's one of your main buffs. Next skill is Rending Slashes. This is a really strong dot and can be empowered by the Maelstrom Axe and Dagger. So we want to keep that up on single target fights. Rapid Strikes is our main spammable. Now, a lot of people ask, why aren't you using Surprise Attack? You're on a Stam Nightblade. Here's the thing. Even though Surprise Attack is really nice in solo play, such as Maelstrom, I would use Surprise Attack, and it gives you Major Fracture, you have to remember that the tanks are already giving you Major Fracture just by taunting ads or taunting bosses. So you don't need the Major Fracture. And also, remember, we're empowering all of our dots with Rapid Strike. So even though in Maelstrom I would use Surprise Attack and it would do a lot more damage, empowering our dots would supply a lot more damage in PvE content and trials when you do have a tank applying Major Fracture to the enemies. Our ultimate is Rend. This is absolutely OP. This is a broken skill. It does a ton of damage. Can be empowered by Maelstrom weapons, so definitely use it in single target fights. Our back bar, Resolve Vigor, I do swap this out for Caltrops at times when I don't really need self heals, or I'm not doing any like really hard content, or I have good healers and I trust them. But for hard modes such as hard mode VMAL or hard mode A, I do keep Vigor on just in case I need that burst heal or self heal, whatever it is. Next skill is Rearming Trap. This is one of our strongest dots. It also gives you Minor Force, which increases critical damage dealt by 12%, so it buffs all of our attacks. Siphoning Attacks. This is another skill that if you're getting a lot of shards, you can swap this out. But on a Khajiit, honestly, I would keep up Siphoning Attacks and only rebuff this when you go below 50% stamina. If you're above 50% stamina, there's no reason to waste time recasting this at all. If you feel like you don't need it in a fight, swap this out for Caltrops. Swap this out for something else. But in hard mode fights, you probably will need it because it's a long fight. You will need some sustain. Remember, you're going to be blocking a lot, so you will waste a little bit more stamina. Endless Hail is one of our strongest dots when powered by the Maelstrom Bow, so keep this up 100% of the time. It also is very, very nice AoE, as I showed before. And lastly, our Poison Injection. This is worth keeping up 100% of the time as long as you empower it correctly with the Maelstrom weapons. Lastly, we're using In-Cap Strike. Now, I use In-Cap to boost our damage by 20% for 6 seconds. It does do good damage. Obviously, you're not going to be stunning anything with it. But again, that increase by 20% for 6 seconds of damage is really, really nice during execute phase. So you would put down your dots, which would be your trap, hail, poison inject. Then you can use In-Cap, then swap, and spam your killer's blade. So it's really, really nice to use during execute. So in single target fights, I would use this. In AoE fights, I would probably swap this to I actually have it remorphed to Ice Comet, but I would remorph this to Meteor Shooting Star and use this in AoE fights as well. So whenever you have ads, Shooting Star is definitely the way to go, because it's going to give you ultimate back, and it does do pretty good damage even on a stamina class. So Shooting Star for ads, In-Cap Strike for bosses. That's it for the skills. Let's go over the CP. Champion points are pretty similar to all the other stam classes. 100 into Warlord to reduce our stamina cost of abilities. 87 into Mooncalf, just to gain a little bit of recovery. In our blue tree, we have 100 into Mighty. 62 precise strikes. Again, Nightblades are based off a crit, so we want a lot of points in here. And then 25 into Thaumaturgy, because we do run quite a lot of dots. For the red tree, now I will change this. Spell Shield is not very useful. I did use this in Hard Mode of Lorcage. It's pretty helpful, but here's what I would do. In a safe situation, in any situation, these are safe CP. You put 89 into an Elemental Defender. You put 15 points into Thick Skinned. You put 10 points into Quick Recovery, just to get a little bit of extra healing. And the rest of the points will go into Hardy. Now, again, red tree is always situational. It depends on what content you're doing. If you're doing Vetmaw, again, I'll put more in Elemental Defender, less into Hardy, more into Thick Skinned. If you're doing Hellra, or if you're doing Sanctum, I would put more points into Hardy, slightly less into Elemental Defender. But this CP layout is very, very safe for any content, and you're going to do well in any content with this. I really like it. So the Stamina Nightblade rotation is a little bit more complex than usual, and then other classes. So to start, we buff with Siphoning Attacks, Relentless Focus, and Deadly Cloak. We throw our Caltrops as we're running to the target, charge up a full heavy, and then start Rapid Strikes, Trap, Endless Hail, Poison Injection, Rapid Strikes. If the ultimate is up, we use it right away. Rapid Strikes, Rending Slashes. Now the Spectral Bow is proc from our Relentless Focus, so we hit it, reapply Relentless Focus, and then we use 3 damage fillers, but since we used our ultimate, we're only going to use 2 damage fillers. Then we do Rapid Strikes and restart the rotation. Trap, Endless Hail, Poison Injection, Rapid Strikes, Rending Slashes. We hit our proc Spectral Bow, reproc Relentless Focus, and then 3 damage fillers, which are our Rapid Strikes. The only time that we apply Deadly Cloak is when you see it completely run out, and usually we only reapply it every second rotation. It's very important, however, to make sure that you keep up all your other dots and prioritize everything else before Deadly Cloak, unless there's a lot of AoE damage incoming and you know it. It is not the strongest single target dot in the game, which is why it's not as important as all the other dots to keep up, but try to keep it up as much as you can without hindering your rotation. Now, of course, we do have an execute on our Stamina Nightblade, which we'll get to in just a second. But just so you know, a lot of people make a mistake. With Killer's Blade, you use it 25% or less, and people start spamming it without keeping our dots up. Remember, 25%, we still apply our dots. We still keep up Trap, Hail, Poison Inject, Rending Slashes, and then we start spamming Killer's Blade instead of using a damage filler, which previously was Rapid Strikes. Notice how I'm not using the Spectral Bow, because Killer's Blade Execute does more damage. So keep up your dots 25% or less, and then instead of the damage filler Rapid Strikes, use Killer's Blade 4 times. So that's the build for the Stamina Nightblade. Again, Stamina Nightblade is one of the harder classes to play, but once you master the rotation, once you understand the basic concepts behind the Nightblade and its passives and its skills, you can do really, really well with this build, especially in trials. So do practice. Again, if this video helped you out and you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. I'll really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye bye.